What's up, guys? Thank you for joining me. This is part one in a series about the war on Christianity. Today, we're going to talk about the war on Christmas. I was going to upload this video before Christmas, but I didn't want to ruin it for you because this video is definitely going to make you upset. You know, the left has never met a tradition they wanted to destroy more than Christmas, not only because it's a wonderful holiday, but mainly because it celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ. And the left, of course, is very offended by that. So they're doing everything they can to cancel it. Let's start with the nativity scene. It's banned in parks in California since 2012. It's also banned in high schools in Indiana since 2015. The nativity scene also cannot be displayed on any public beaches in Delaware since 2019. And it's also banned outside of courthouses in Ohio.
For years, the village of Elmore, Ohio, has put out a traditional faith-based nativity scene for the holidays. Town councilmen we spoke to don't know who outed them.
They don't know who outed them, like they robbed a bank.
But somebody told the proudly atheist Freedom From Religion Foundation about this little nativity scene. And the next thing the town knew, it was threatened with a lawsuit. The foundation said placing a nativity scene in a public park violated separation of church and state. Okay, so the town has decided they couldn't afford this lawsuit, so they said, we're just going to move it across the street. Apparently someone there says, fine with me. I think it's a retired mayor of the town. He says, you can put it up here. Lisa, why would it be a problem on government property?
It's a problem because it violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. You cannot have the government trying to advance, promote, or endorse any religion. And by nature, a nativity scene, the birth of Christ, is extremely religious.
Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's not that she finds the birth of Christ extremely religious. It's that she finds the birth of Christ extremely offensive. That's why they took this case. This firm isn't even from Ohio. They're from Wisconsin. They flew to Ohio to take this case pro bono. So she's lying, and I'm going to prove it to you. But first, listen to the other guest tell us how we can correct this.
They wanted to avoid litigation, and that's why they moved it, but they didn't have to. They needed to make this a broader holiday scene as opposed to just a nativity scene. They could keep what they have there, but they need to bring in other things, snowmen and Christmas trees and Santa Claus and things like that. And if they would have done that, then they would have been able to pass the constitutional muster pursuant to our U.S. Supreme Court cases, and they would not have to have litigated or spend all the money on the attorneys.
You see that? Jesus with Rudolph and Santa, totally cool. But Jesus alone, too offensive. Do you realize how ridiculous this is? Christmas celebrates the birth of Christ. What they're telling Christians, you can't do it. You either need to remove Jesus or add other Christmas decorations. Now listen to her warn about how important it is not to make it about Jesus.
Really have to argue the context. You look at the reasonable person standard. Is somebody looking at this nativity display going to say, wow, they're really promoting Christianity? And that's the problem. You really want to get everybody involved, make it secular. You can definitely have the Christmas spirit there, but you need to be inclusive. And that's really what we're seeing. I agree. If you add some plastic Santas and reindeers and potentially a menorah, you make it more Christmas tradition, holiday tradition, that would be helpful. Well, and I agree, the litigation is expensive. I understand why they would want to try to avoid it.
Now let's talk about this corrupt organization. They call themselves the Freedom From Religion Foundation, and that word from is very important because they like to claim that's what's in the Constitution. But it is not freedom from religion, it is freedom for religion, meaning you are free to worship as you please. The government cannot impose an official religion, and they cannot prevent you from practicing yours. There is nothing in the Constitution that states we must be free from religion. It simply means you could practice as you wish without fear of government persecution. Now let's go to this company's website, and I'm going to prove to you that they're lying. You can see they have a thumbnail where you could report a church. Isn't that nice? Not a mosque or a synagogue. They're only interested in attacking Christian churches. Let's see what else they're into. Let's check out their brochure. Here are some of their issues. Public school prayer. They're against it. The Pledge of Allegiance. Not the whole thing, just the part that says one nation under God. Religious displays on government property. We've been talking about that. Prayers at government meetings. And the words, "In God we trust," written on our currency. This is a hateful atheist organization. They hate God. They hate those who worship. especially Christians. And this has nothing to do with the Constitution. And I'm going to prove it to you. You heard her say that the main issue about the nativity scene is that it's on public property, correct? Well, while this company has no problem traveling all over the world, suing institutions to force them to remove anything to do with Christianity, they are also forcing public schools to permit workshops that spread the word of Satan. I'm not making it up. Here it is right from their website. Under highlights in July of this year, they settled a lawsuit to end the discrimination against the Satanic Temple. You with me? Jesus on public property, incredibly offensive, and they sue to get you to remove it. Satan on public property, totally cool, and they sue to force the schools to keep it. And by the way, we're talking about all schools, including elementary schools. Kids in the 1st and 2nd grade are being taught how wonderful Satan is. And how do you think they're getting this message across to little children? With cartoons.
Satan's not an evil guy. He wants you to learn and question why. He wants you to have fun and be yourself. And by the way, there is no hell. When all is said and done, Satan doesn't actually exist. He's an imaginary friend who can teach us how to live. Satan's not a scary guy. He wants you to share and to be kind. He wants you to have fun and be yourself. And by the way, there is no hell.
That's allowed in our public elementary schools. And if the schools don't allow it, they get sued by law firms like this. Now, you heard that God-hating lawyer mention the reindeer clause. She's talking about a case that went up to the Supreme Court in 1984, which ruled that other Christmas decorations like Santa or Rudolph will dilute the religious element and therefore would be allowed on public property. The main issue is public property. They claim the government cannot allow any religious items on public property because it would be too offensive. You know what's not offensive to have on public property? Satan. This sick individual sued the state of Florida to allow him to display his satanic temple. It illustrates an angel being thrown into the fire pits of hell. It wasn't just allowed on public property, it was allowed inside the Tallahassee Capitol building. And it's happening in other areas too. Red states like Iowa.
If you are visiting the Iowa State House over the next couple of weeks, you will see this in the rotunda. It's a holiday display put up by the Satanic Temple. KCCI's Bo Bowman went to the State House today to find out more about it.
The supporters of this group say if there could be a Christmas tree here in the Capitol, then they can display this put on by the Iowa Satanic Temple.
We're going to really relish the opportunity to be represented in a public forum. We don't have a church on every street corner.
Lucian Greaves, co-founder of the Satanic Temple, says this satanic display is a symbol for their right of religious freedom. He says if you don't like it, don't look at it. I'm told the altar here will be on display at the State House for 14 days. At the State House, Bo Bowman, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
By the way, the Satanic Temple says it is a federally recognized non-theistic group that uses satanic symbols as a way to convey its message. The temple's website says its work includes publicly confronting hate groups and lobbying for abortion rights.
Are you surprised they lobby for abortion rights? But just like Tallahassee, it is not just that they displayed it on public property. They displayed it inside the state capitol building. So this nonsense about not being able to set up the nativity scene on public property is a lie. Nobody cares about religious items set up on public property. They only have a problem with the nativity scene because it celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ. The liberals hate it, they're offended by it, and they mock it. And when they're not doing it in government buildings like they're doing here, private citizens are doing it on their own property.
In its fourth year outside this home on Voorhees Lane, the zombie nativity may have lost some of its appeal.
It was really at the end of last year. I said, I'm not doing this next year.
Homeowner Jason Dixon says he had a change of heart when someone donated a few figures to add this year. But this, he says, is the final hurrah, much to the chagrin of his son.
My 3-year-old's hard because that's all he talks about all year. When are we going to get the manger out?
The scene has stirred up controversy in its few years.
We got 27 citations, $500 each. It was $13,500 worth of fines, and we took them to court and beat that.
Yeah, of course you beat it, because the courts have no problem mocking Christianity. Let's go over some more bands. Have you heard of Digital Cinema Media? They run advertising for 150 movie theaters. You know those ads that come on before the previews start? Well, this is one of the ads they were playing around Christmas time. That ad was pulled from 150 movie theaters because the birth of Christ around Christmas time was deemed too offensive. So there you have it. You have courts, schools, government buildings, and private homeowners banning or mocking the nativity scene. Thank God we have the churches, because the churches won't have any problem with this, right? Unless you happen to be a progressive church.
Church's nativity scene in California is going viral. Now it shows Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as refugees separated in cages. The Claremont United Methodist Church says it's using the nativity scene to speak about the Trump administration's separation policies at the U.S. southern border. People have mixed reviews on the nativity scene, and it's sparking debate on social media and in the community.
So even the church is playing politics. Now, I know I said this video was going to be only about Christmas, but I need to mention something here. I am so tired of the lying Democrats and the corrupt media blaming Trump for putting kids in cages. Joe mentioned it during their debate.
In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages.
And Kamala, who joked about visiting the border, claiming there was no need for it, took 3 years to finally get down there. And when she did, she said this.
He fought to slash funding for the fight against fentanyl. And what did he do instead? Well, let's talk about that. He separated families. He ripped toddlers out of their mother's arms, put children in cages, and tried to end protections for dreamers.
So she's repeating the same line about keeping kids in cages. And by the way, I agree with both of them. I think it's a terrible idea to keep kids in cages. When I see children locked up in pens like this, it disgusts me. But look closely at that date. That photo was taken in June of 2014 when Biden was vice president. Were Joe and Kamala outraged then? Are they going to blame Obama for this? Okay. But look at these photos. These photos were taken in March of 2021 during the Biden-Harris administration. So is it a problem to keep kids like this, or is it only a problem if Trump does it? I know this video is supposed to be about Christmas, but when I saw what that progressive church did, I had to mention this. Anyway, I'm running long. Please come back for part 2. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Please share this video. Please give me a thumbs up and comment. I read and answer all of the comments. That's all I got for you on this one. I hope to see you for part 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.